If you're looking for cheesy high school romance cliches, then hi! Welcome to A Teenager in Love, written by secondhand-trash on Tumblr. You could feel the dread when you stood back up after being knocked to the ground and felt a sharp pain shooting from your calf all the way across your body. It wasn't the getting hurt part that annoyed you. Students get hurt during trainings all the time. There were definitely more heroic-looking ways to get hurt in the battlefield than twisting your ankle, though, that's for sure. You let out an exasperated groan when the loud beep signaling the time was up echoed through the venue. You could already hear what your teacher was going to say about your careless injury the moment you got back. The rest of your team appeared from different directions, jogging your way to check up on you. "You alright?" Sero asked, eyeing your limping frame as you tried to bear the pain through gritting teeth. "Yeah," you hissed, trying your best to stay balanced on your one good foot. "I guess I'll have to make a trip to see Recovery Girl right after, though." "Can you even get to her office on your own?" "I'm sure I can manage." Your breathing was heavy as you focused on your walk, screaming at yourself that there were only a few steps left until you reached the door. You were gonna be a pro hero. There were worse things that could happen to you than a strained ankle. You cursed at yourself as your senses were numbed by the pain. So for fuck's sake, can you stop wobbling? "You're not gonna make it to the nurse's office like this." Slowly tilting your head up to look at whoever it was that seemed to be jabbing you even more amidst your suffering, you were sure your twisted face was nowhere near pretty when you snapped up to stare right at Bakugou, who was just standing there with his arms crossed. You gritted. "Excuse me?" You were fairly certain that he must have sensed the bitterness in your tone, but it did not stop him from repeating himself. "I said, you're gonna hurt yourself even more if you limp your way to the nurse's office like this." Yes, clearly, you did not know that yourself. You rolled your eyes and his brows furrowed. "Thank you for telling me something I already know. Not helping." You're expecting him to sneer at you, or click his tongue at your dismissive attitude before turning his head away. At this moment, you were quite frankly a burden to the team, and you were rather certain that he would not entertain you any further, given how you were ready to argue with him at any given point. You were sure he was about to beat up your other leg when he marched towards you. "Bakugou, what are you doing? Put me down! Put me down!" Graceful was the last thing that could be used to describe you when Bakugou suddenly hooked your arm around his neck and lifted you up like you weighed nothing. Shocked, you looked like a fish that was out of water as you twisted and struggled in his chest. You were not expecting him to just pick you up in front of everyone, and you could feel your face burning in embarrassment when his friends howled. "I'm taking you to the nurse's office." "I can walk." "No, you can't." He growled at you, and you found yourself gripping his arm for leverage. "So can you just stop twisting around? You're heavy." "Please, just shut up." You weren't sure if you were more ashamed that he put you in a bridal carry out of nowhere, that it was almost given that none of your friends would let you live it down, or that your heart was stammering like crazy as he walked out of the arena with you in his arms. You had not seen your boyfriend around all day long, and he was more sneaky than anything else whenever you tried to talk to him. You were concerned. Applauding Kaminari Denki was a Kaminari Denki that was up to no good, and you were not keen to know what dumb shit he had planned. "Look on the bright side. Maybe he came up with something sweet," Nina said as she pulled the chair to your lunch table. "It is your anniversary, right?" "Yeah," you sighed as you sat down next to her. The sound of chairs against the floor echoed as the rest of your friend group sat down, but Denki was still nowhere to be seen. The feeling that something was bound to go wrong loomed at the back of your head, and you took a few quick bites of your fried rice to calm yourself down. It was sweet that he even wanted to do something for you, but you would much rather he refrain himself from doing anything too outlandish. You grimaced when you thought of the pain of cleaning up piles of rose petals after he asked you out in the middle of the night outside your dorm. "Do we even know where he is? He sent me a text earlier saying that I have to be at the canteen during lunchtime today." Your question was answered by the electronic screech of a mic. Everyone turned to the source of the ear-piercing noise, and you felt blood retreat from your face when you saw a very familiar blonde stepping onto the table. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Sorry to interrupt everyone. Denki held the mic in his hand. The mumbling from the crowd did not seem to bother him at all. But I would like to take this chance to show my undying love for my wonderful listener. You had never wanted to crawl into a hole as much as you did now when people instantly turned around to look at you. Maybe if you escaped now, you could still make it out in time. You whimpered when your friends collectively went to hold you in place as you tried to slide under the table. Traitors, you mouthed as they continued to snicker, showing that they were very down to sacrifice your dignity for the sake of their entertainment. You could feel your skin crawl as you braced yourself for the eventual hit when Denki took a deep, dramatic breath. Oh, fuck. Your boyfriend was an actual idiot. Does that mean you're moron sexual? You shut your eyes tight when he raised the mic to his lips. I love you, baby! So, happy anniversary? Your face was still burning from shame, and you could feel the glances people threw to your side even moments after his grand gesture in front of the entire school. But when he came to your side sheepishly with his stupid cute face, you just didn't have the heart to say anything bad about it. Happy anniversary, babe. Everyone wanted to leave their last school festival with a bang. Sadly, you were already eliminated by the second round of the competition, but that didn't stop you from being on the edge of your seat for the rest of your friends at every moment of the festival. Contestant Kirishima Eijirou! You cheered with the rest of the crowd when President Mike's voice ranged in the area. You were proud of how far he had come, and you knew he had it in the bag just by the way he walked out with so much confidence. Not that you didn't care about the rest of your friends, but this was probably the one match you anticipated the most. It was only fair. He was your boyfriend after all, and somehow you had convinced yourself that as his partner, you get to boast about his achievements too. Leaning against the rail at the lowest level of the podium, you watched as he marched out from the door. You wondered if he could see you. Not that it mattered. He knew you were rooting for him somewhere even if you were out of his sight. But he did, obviously, with the way his eyes lit up the moment his gaze stopped at your frame in the middle of the crowd. He made the gesture of tapping your fist against where your heart would be on your chest as a silent sign that you were down at the pit with him in spirit. The UA Sports Festival was no joke, and the camera that broadcasted on all of the giant screens around the arena was on him the moment he walked out, following his every move. The crowd roared when he suddenly made a divert from the field to run towards your direction, and you could feel your heart beating as he got closer. Oh? Oh? Where is Kirishima going? Gripping the concrete edge of the platform you were standing on, you were grinning ear to ear like an idiot when he pulled himself up by the force of his arm and pecked your lips with a wink. You knew your face was a few shades darker as he ran away, the cheers and whistling of the crowd not once died down. For good luck, he mouthed as he turned around and jogged backwards. Aw, young love. How exciting! Meet me under the cherry blossom tree at the back of the campus after school. There's something I want to say to you. You had not been able to get your mind off the little note that was stuck at your shoe locker all day long. It was a page torn off of those standard school notebooks folded neatly in half, black ink scrawled on top onto the short message you had been thinking about. You wondered who it was that went out of their way to leave you a love note in the most cliché way possible. The entire day, you kept wavering from wanting to show up and to just forget about it. Your friend suggested that perhaps it was a romantic gesture from some admirer of yours, but you were skeptical. Who even does that nowadays? But somehow, as you clutched the letter in your hand under your desk while your mind drifted away, staring at rounded letters with a bit of blotted ink at the corner, the hope of wanting it to be sincere rose in your head. Fine, you sighed, shoving the note deeper into your drawer as a desperate attempt to stop thinking about it. You'll go. You felt your chest getting heavier and heavier as the hand on the clock got closer and closer to striking, and you nearly jumped in your seat when the bell rang through the campus. Your legs were moving faster than your head could process, and you had to consciously tell yourself to slow down. Your heart stopped when you saw the dot of green in the middle of a sea of pink petals. Midoriya beamed when he saw you walking up towards him. You came. He almost sounded surprised when you stood in front of him. Yeah. You smiled meekly, your hands fidgeting with your sleeves. He chuckled nervously, his freckles winking at you as he rubbed the back of his neck. Are you disappointed that it's me? No. His smile got wider at how fast you were to shoot him down. I was hoping it was you. Your voice got smaller and smaller under his earnest gaze. Actually. Well, I'm glad. What I want to say is... Well... You could see his face got redder and redder by the second. His voice nearly came out as a shout when he shut his eyes tight and squeaked. Will he go out with me? His eyes were still tightly closed as he clenched his fist, using so much of his force that he was nearly shaking while nervously waiting for you to break the silence. His eyes shot open when the crisp chuckle of your voice rang in his ears. Of course. He grinned, and you couldn't help but smile back. Your heart melted when a small petal of the blossom fell on top of his head. You were actually not allowed to leave the school grounds after dark, in all honesty. But hey, you had months until you graduated anyways. What could they do to you if you break the rules? Kick you out? To think about it, the teachers probably already knew. It was impossible that a group of experienced pro-heroes would not notice that an entire dorm of students had snuck out to the local summer festival. But since they had not done anything to stop you or force you to go back, maybe just treat it as them allowing you to have your last taste of ordinary school life before you had to be thrust into a world full of life-threatening work and publicity. You started out walking through each row and looking around with your friends, but as each person rushed away to see whatever caught their eye in all the stalls you could barely fix your eye on, you soon found yourself to be wandering mindlessly alone, slipping through the crowds with no purpose. It almost felt like you passed through a portal to another realm when you reached the other side of the venue to see the dimmed rock stairs to the top of a local temple. It was quiet, with no other sound other than your own steps and the cicadas chirping in the trees. You found yourself unable to resist the urge of climbing higher and higher, the sound of the bustling festival from down below being more and more distant as you lost yourself in the peace of the night. You took a deep breath when you reached the top of the stairs. You could smell the pines in the wind. When you were about to think that you were alone, you spotted a familiar figure sitting by the steps to the main temple. Todoroki? He seemed to be in his own world when you tentatively walked up to him, your call breaking his trance and his eyes slightly, only barely noticeably widened. Listener? Scooching to the side to make space for you, you sat down next to him. He pursed his lips at how much space you deliberately left between you and him. It wasn't that you didn't like Todoroki Shouto. The reason to your amount of caution was the exact opposite. Even though he had changed a lot from the ice block he was 3 years ago, you could still feel the wall of aura just by sitting near your crush. Of all the luck in the world, it had to be him you found atop the hill. You wondered if you should make a move to say something, but then he spoke up. The fireworks are about to start, and you can get the best view from here. He looked up at the distant sky. You could see the lights from down below and all the stalls lined up from where you were. As if on cue, the sudden crackling blared through, and the shoots of flame illuminated the sky until it exploded into millions of sparks. You watched in awe at the different shapes and colors splattered across the sky, lighting up the small temple you were sitting in. This was the end of summer. Your last summer. You smiled. As unceremonious as it was, at least you could say that you spent the last of your summer with your crush. It's beautiful. It really is, he said, his eyes fixed on you. You felt fireworks setting off in your heart when you felt a warm hand overlapping yours. Shinsou always rode his bike around. It made things easier, and he got to have a moment of silence all to himself as he slid through the roads and narrow alleyways. He knew his way around pretty well, and he was fairly certain that he recognized everyone who took the same path as he did to leave from school. He was delightedly surprised when he saw you with your head lowered, tapping at your screen while absent-mindedly walking along the road. "You're going somewhere?" You looked up at the noise of tires scratching across the ground, lifting your head to see Shinsou stopping next to you. He had one foot down as his hands remained on the handles as he eyed you. "Yeah, I have to get a package from my parents at, You clicked out the message your mom sent you and showed it to him. Leaning in, Shinsou looked at the address as his brows locked together. Here. I'm just going the direction Google Map tells me to go, honestly." How could he nicely tell you that Google Maps did it once again and took you on a more complicated route than it had to be? "It'll take you at least half an hour if you want to get there by foot." "Hop on," he said as he tilted the handlebar. "I'll give you a ride." You could feel yourself stuttering at his offer. Just the thought of being so close to him made you nervous. "Oh, no, it's fine. I'm heading that direction anyways." It was a lie. He just wanted the excuse. He gestured to the back of his bike with a jerk of his head. "Come on." Seeing as he insisted, you gingerly crawled up the vehicle and sat behind him. Keeping a cautious distance at first, you were glad he couldn't see the blush on your face when you suddenly jerked forward and gripped his shirt for leverage. He chuckled, and your breath hitched at the back of your throat when he pulled you by the wrist and swung your arms around his waist. "You'll fall if you don't hold on." You couldn't focus on anything other than how he could feel every flex of the muscles beneath as he cycled past the streets, and he prayed he could not feel the thudding in your chest. Shinsou, on the other hand, was just happy that you couldn't see how he was grinning from ear to ear when he felt you shift closer and closer to him. There was no one you could blame but yourself for the pain that was shooting through your head right now. You thought you could survive on 1 hour of sleep in order to cram for the test you had the next day, but clearly, you overestimated your abilities. You could have sworn you were seeing black dots in your vision the moment you put your pen down. "Are you okay?" Sero asked, watching as your head slowly fell down before jerking up again as you fought to keep your eyes opened. Blinking hard, you rubbed your temples and sighed. "Yeah, just a bit tired." "A bit? I'll be alright." He eyed you in concern as you yawned before sighing. "If you say so." Stopping himself from being too obvious with his attention on you, Sero tried to focus on whatever he had laid out in front of him. He froze when he felt a weight at his arm. You had fallen asleep. You had fallen asleep right on his elbow and leaning on his tape suspender like it was a pillow. He couldn't move in fear of waking you up, but inside he was panicking. Did you know that you were literally laying on him? Part of him would like to believe that it only happened because you felt so at ease around him that your guard was let down, but he also felt a looming guilt of taking advantage of you in midst of your sleep-deprived state. The more chivalrous act would be to move you back to your seat, but as he tried to carefully lift you up, you shivered before snuggling even closer into his arm, and he just couldn't deal with the overwhelming joy that small act brought him. Yes, he needed to avoid waking you up. He thought to himself as he pushed back the idea of moving you. That was the purpose, not because he just liked you leaning on him like that. "Sero, are you coming?" Kaminari was taken aback by the sharp glare from his usually laid-back friend. His eyes slowly drifted lower until he saw you soundly asleep next to Sero. A sly smile found its way onto the blonde's face. "Oh, you better fucking not ruin this for me." The message in Sero's stare was apparent, and Kaminari slowly backed out of the classroom with his hands up in defeat. But not without stealing a picture of you all cozy against Sero's arm for future use, of course.